We can unlock enormous economic opportunities by connecting and creating a sustainable grid, including right here in northern British Columbia. So our government is launching a transformational strategy to develop that clean energy, including through new investment tax credits for clean electricity, through something we just introduced in the budget called the Productivity Super Deduction, which provides for immediate expensing of clean electricity generation and conservation equipment. The Canadian Infrastructure Bank plans to invest $10 billion in clean power projects, and there will be federal support for provincial transmission links. We also see that nuclear power will play an important role in scaling clean generation. And the Minister of Natural Resources will lead our new nuclear strategy, working with the provinces, including the Government of Ontario, to deploy small modular reactors and tens of gigawatts of new utility-scale nuclear capacity. Canada, of course you know this in BC, Canada has a long tradition of using hydropower to unlock economic activity. That's true here, it's true in Quebec with Hydro-Quebec, it's true even in my home province of Alberta with the Brazeau Dam, which was the start of our industrial development. In that spirit, today we're referring the Iqaluit Nuqiqsutit hydro project to the Major Projects Office. This is a breakthrough. This is a breakthrough for Arctic sovereignty and sustainability. It will be a 100% Inuit-owned hydro energy project. It will save $1.9 billion in diesel costs over the next 50 years while providing affordable, reliable, emissions-free power in the Arctic. Now that's elements of the energy superpower strategy. The second strategy is to develop new trade and economic corridors that help us diversify our markets and build our independence. And this is the potential of the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor that we're also referring today to the Major Projects Office. The Northwest Corridor has extraordinary potential to unlock critical minerals development, clean power transmission, all under indigenous leadership. We're talking tens of billions of dollars of investments, and in parallel, creating a new conservation area the size of Greece. The corridor involves building new transmission lines, upgrading highways, installing fiber and cell towers, and investing in communities, ports, and railways. By doing so, we'll strengthen our position as a global leader in clean energy and a leader in critical minerals. Now, what's crucial for this is the North Coast transmission line, one of the reasons we're here at BC Hydro. It's required to unlock this potential. And to help get it going, the Canada Infrastructure Bank is today announcing a loan of $140 million to BC Hydro. The North Coast transmission line will enable transformative industrial projects, including silicium, LNG, as well as multiple critical minerals developments in the Golden Triangle. The transmission line alone has the potential to create $10 billion in new economic activity in this area, while reducing emissions by up to 3 million tons annually. But more broadly, the Northwest Transmission Line will anchor clean energy industrial corridor for generations. And it has the potential to be connected with the Yukon through the Yukon-BC Grid Connect that will increase the Yukon's energy security and affordability, as well as there's the potential for an interconnect with Alberta to optimize reliability and sustainability in that province. Now, with respect to critical minerals, by 2050, global demand for those minerals is expected to increase fivefold, 5 times. The problem is, at present, the supply of those resources is highly concentrated in one country, and it's very risky. What the world wants is Canada to be the reliable supplier of critical minerals as the world moves to building a more sustainable economy. We're already amongst the top 5 global producers for 10 different critical minerals, and we hold rich geological endowment of all 34. But unlocking these resources through projects in the Ring of Fire in Ontario, La Fosse de Labrador in Quebec and Labrador, and right here, or almost right here, in the Golden Triangle in northern BC, this will attract hundreds of billions of dollars in new investment and create thousands of high-paying, not just jobs, careers, thousands of high-paying careers for miners, carpenters, engineers, and beyond across this country. The federal government is committed that these opportunities are realized in full partnership, including with equity ownership with First Nations communities. The Ring of Fire alone, to give an example, in Ontario, has the potential to add over $22 billion to Canada's GDP over 30 years, while advancing growth in partnership with local Indigenous communities. So we put together a critical minerals strategy that will encourage exploration, accelerate project development, support essential infrastructure from the first mile to the mines and the processing facilities to new trade corridors and ports that open up global markets. Our strategy will support clean power development, as we see here, while providing greater price certainty and competitive financing to the developers to encourage the long-term investments that we need and the world needs. La semaine passée, le ministre des Ressources naturelles a annoncé 26 nouveaux investissements, partenariats et mesures visant à mettre en œuvre des projets de minéraux critiques pour que de 6 milliards de dollars. Cette initiative va notamment permettre de libérer l'énorme potentiel de développement et d'exploitation qu'offre le cercle de feu. Et le gouvernement du Canada et le gouvernement de l'Ontario s'intensifient justement leur pourparlers en ce moment pour accélérer ces démarches. The budget makes major investments to advance critical minerals projects, including a $2 billion critical minerals sovereign fund for those projects and a $1.5 billion first and last mile fund for related infrastructure, as well as expanded tax credits for investments. So here in the Golden Triangle, you can see where those applications would come once we build the transmission. In this context, we're referring to the Major Projects Office, Canada Nickel's Crawford project in Ontario, the Nouveau Monde Graphite Matawini mine in Quebec, and the Northcliffe Resources Sisson mine in New Brunswick. To say a few words about each. Crawford will anchor Canada's global leadership in clean industrial materials. It is situated in the world's second largest nickel reserve. It'll produce high-quality, low-carbon nickel, essential for batteries and green steel. Its projected emissions are 90% below the global average, and it has the potential for a net negative carbon footprint. Crawford will set the global standard for the future of responsible mining. The Sisson mine in New Brunswick will produce tungsten, the strongest metal in the world, and it will position Canada as a reliable supplier for steel manufacturing, defense, and protective equipment. Et enfin, la mine Matawini de Nouveau Monde Graphite va transformer les chaînes mondiales d'approvisionnement en batteries. Et ce projet va s'intégrer à l'usine de matériaux de batterie de Bécancour afin de produire de graphite sphérique utilisé dans les batteries de véhicules électriques et les systèmes de stockage d'énergie, et tout cela sera entièrement alimenté par l'électricité propre du Québec. Le projet va permettre de réduire les sources fortes en carbone, de renforcer la résilience canadienne en matière d'approvisionnement et de contribuer à l'accélération de la transition énergétique. En plus, il va attirer 1,8 milliard de dollars en investissement. Now, I've talked a lot about building and specifics of what we're going to build together. But today is not just about what we build. It's also about how we build. We're building sustainably, in each case reducing emissions and investing in a clean energy future. Our energy and critical minerals projects are amongst the lowest carbon in the world. And moreover, they unlock major investments in sustainable growth for generations to come. Secondly, we're building in solidarity with Canadian workers, creating hundreds of thousands of high-paying union jobs. And we are always building in partnership with Indigenous peoples to ensure meaningful Indigenous ownership and major economic benefits, while promoting the conservation of our natural heritage for future generations. This approach reinforces that the impacts of our nation-building strategies, just like those that came before us, that these impacts will be generational. Consider my earlier reference to that railway in the Maritimes. It was built around the time of Confederation to move goods and troops there, to assert Canada's independence and help unite a young country. But that line eventually became part of Canadian National Railway, which now spans more than 31,000 kilometers across this vast land, reaching here to Terrace and from Terrace to the world. That line moves $250 billion of cargo each year and employs nearly 25,000 Canadians. Its infrastructure is old as our nation itself, and it drives this huge economic activity across the country, employing tens of thousands of Canadians and uniting our nation. That's the power of nation-building projects. Projects that Canadians have built before, and projects that we are starting together to build again. Building Terrace strong, building BC strong, building Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks.
Nous allons maintenant commencer les questions. We'll now begin with the questions. Please limit yourself to one question, one follow-up. First question.
Excuse me. Hi there. Aaron MacArthur from Global News. There's been a considerable amount of Indigenous opposition to fast-tracking. We see with Silas Sims there's 2 legal challenges already.
Yeah.
Does the Major Projects Office and the fast-tracking legislation run into conflict with Indigenous groups and rights and title?
That's certainly not the approach that we're taking. We're providing several things. One is the forum to bring together parties and to bring together all supports available to a project, to work in concert with the province, in the case of Silasm, to work with the province of British Columbia, which we have done, so that there is one process for the consultations and support. The second thing that it does, and I'll come back to the consultation and support in a second, second thing it does, very importantly, is that the federal government is putting on the table huge financing for Indigenous equity ownership. So we're moving to a different nature of these projects, from benefits to the communities, which there has to be, benefits in construction, benefits as they, when they're operating for Indigenous communities, but to have true equity ownership that is financed by the federal government, and that ownership position is put in place. That also helps with the process and ensures that they are fair and just. We're encouraged with respect to Silasm in terms of the scale of Indigenous support across various groups, support, obviously the Niska, but more broadly across potential pipeline route, as well as the transmission route. But the process moves forward. We work in concert with all parties, and we make things possible. We don't dictate where projects are going to go in the end. Parties decide.